Hey everyone, it's Lucy and this is going to be my first impressions on the face and eyeballs using the new Lime Crime Venus XL eyeshadow palette. So if you want to see how I achieve this look and also my first impressions of the palette, keep on watching. Also, don't forget to subscribe and thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it, comment down below and I'd be happy to reply, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Lucy Helena. And it's been a while since I've done a video, but I decided to do one because a product came out recently that was just a bit of a surprise. They hadn't been teasing it or anything, and I just thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna get that because reasons. And I went on YouTube to see if anyone had bought it so far, and there were only a few little kind of reviews and things. Nothing that necessarily convinced me to buy it or not to buy it. I thought, well, I'm gonna order this because I live in LA and it's gonna arrive really quickly. So the product that I'm talking about, obviously you know this because you've seen the title and you've clicked on this video. It is the Venus XL palette. Oh. This palette, I'm just gonna hold it here while I talk, is the third Venus palette from Lime Crime Makeup. They are based in California, or LA, at least I think they are. When I purchased this, I just chose the regular shipping, which said I think like 7+ business days. This arrived I think in about 3 business days. I think it costs about $58. Hopefully that price is correct. I have the other 2 Venus palettes. So here's the original Venus palette, and this is what it looks like inside. And honestly, when I got this several years ago, it was one of my favorite palettes. And then they brought out a second one. That's what it looks like. It's definitely a lot grungier. Kind of the story is, I knew I had to buy this palette because I love the other ones. I'm just doing this because I saw there weren't very many videos, so I thought I would just nip it in the bud and do one. And I'm gonna put it on my eyeballs and give you my first impressions on my eyes. So I do have a full face of makeup on that I've been wearing all day. It's the middle of the day. I already have mascara on, so that's a little bit annoying because I never like to put eyeshadow on when I've already got mascara on. But we're just going to do it anyway and see what happens. So the packaging, I mean, it feels really heavy. It's the same cardboard packaging. Obviously I love it because it's pink and red is like my vibe. I've got pink hair and it's reddish on the ends. And it's got that same Venus chick on there. So opening it up, I actually love, you can technically fold it all the way back. And because the palette is so big, I will say that's awesome because I really hate it because my vanity area here is very organized, but it really bothers me when I have a palette and I can't fold it back and fit it nicely onto my vanity with all my other products. And also when I'm trying to take a nice flat lay and the lid's like flapping about and I can't make it work in a photo. So, you know, first world problems, but I love that it folds back like this, and then I can show you guys, obviously it's got the plastic on, so let's remove that. I can show you guys what it looks like without getting the mirror in the way. So I've got a window right in front of me. So this is natural daylight showing you the palette in all its glory. Isn't it gorgeous? To begin, I'm just going to obviously highlight the fact that there's some matte shades and some shimmer shades. I'm not going to bother counting them. Again, that information is all over the internet. I'm not here for the facts, I'm here for the opinions. So, rolling up my sleeves with my jumper because it's actually kind of hot because it's LA and it's winter. Let's just get straight into it. So I'm going to prime my lids like I always do with Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. Let's see. Ooh, nice and close. I'm just using a mirror down below, that's where I'm going to be looking. So, I'm just dabbing this onto my eyelid. The first thing I'm going to do is set at least the top of my eye down to the crease with a neutral shade, which I usually do. And looking at this, I think the shade I'm going to use is Blank Canvas shade because it looks kind of like creamy white. So I'm just going to use that shade. I'm doing this first eye, but I'm going to set both before I start. Ooh. Kind of actually got a colour to it, so I'm not going to go above my crease because I actually think this has a level of colour to it. Okay, that's what I'm doing there. I'm going to set the crease on this side with Blank Canvas. And the other eye, just to be different, I'm going to use my Chi Chi To the Moon and Back eyeshadow, which I use every single day to set this part of my eye before I use any bright colours. And I'm just using the Sigma. Honestly, it's rubbed off the brush, but it's just like a big flat shader, and I use this to set my eye with a natural shade every day. And honestly, like, I've really not spent very much time looking at the swatches of this on Instagram and wherever else, because I just wanted to kind of like look at the palette myself and figure this out. So we've got a lot of pinky, bright, vibrant shades. My god, I could just create so many looks with this, but I'm just going to go pinky and bright with one side and maybe dark with the other side. Okay, first side I'm going to start with the shade Scallop. I'm not going to hold up the palette every single time, but this is like a blushy pink straight into the crease, and I'm using the original unicorn brush, would you believe? I actually really like them, and that's my story. So, straight into the crease. Obviously this is blending, I keep saying obviously. Nothing's obvious, is it? This is blending like a dream. I'm not surprised, it's what I expect from Lime Crime, and I'm really quite happy with that. So I'm not blending it too far out, because I think I might extend it with a different pink. So next I'm going to go in with a different brush. This new brush is the Sephora Pro Bullet Crease 86, because I just wanted something a bit smaller, because I think something really important when you have an eye shape like mine that's kind of like almond shaped and hooded, you know, like most of my eyelid isn't visible when I'm looking straight ahead. It's really important to have smaller brushes, not bigger brushes, to slowly approach eyeshadow as opposed to just like slapping it on and then being like, oh fuck. So next I'm going to go in with Goddess, which is kind of like a blushy pink, to the outer crease, and I'm raising my eyebrow when I do that so that I can really get into that socket area, even though, see, it disappears as soon as I close my eyes. I'm going to bring that down onto the actual lid as well, so that it shows up when I look straight ahead. When I look straight ahead, it kind of goes down in a C shape onto my eyelid. Maybe it's not a C shape, but... And I'm going to extend that over as well. And I'm going to go back to the previous brush and back into Scallop above this and extend this out. I mean, that's already looking really awesome. The interesting thing about this palette, I'm just going to say, is that every single shade is kind of like pinkish, reddish or brown. There's not a single gold colour here, so, or at least not that I can see. So it just means that, because sometimes I would do this kind of eye look and then I would go in with the gold to sort of like balance it out, but I'm just going to be all pink today. So next I'm going to go in with... Let's start with another teeny tiny detail brush, another new brush that I got from Sephora. It's the number 18 Pro Shader, really small, because I want to try and pack on a few different shades as I do this. So, I'm going to go in with some metallics now. I'm going to go in with Eden, which is a metallic, and by the way, Goddess said it wasn't metallic, but when it's gone on the eye, or at least it doesn't look metallic in the pan, I don't know if you can see, but it actually looks really shimmery, so I don't know what the formula of that is, but I really like it. So I'm going to go with Eden, which looks like a kind of corally metallic, into the next little section. Ooh, it's got a little pop to it. And I'm just going vertically up, almost in like a little stripe, because I'm going to be packing on a bunch of colours here. That is gorgeous. Clean the brush. I'm using the same brush over and over. And by the way, over here, I'm using this little colour changer or whatever it's called. What's it called? Colour switcher. Yep. And then the next shade I'm going to go in with, just because I saw that and now I see what's happening, and I honestly had a plan for what I was going to do on both eyes and I'm really just winging it. Because that's come out so nice and bright, I'm going to go in with Flora, which is this kind of, well, at least it looks like a neon coral right next to that, because I just thought it would blend really well and make this cool like matte to metallic transition. Just doing a tiny little stripe there like that. And I'm not worrying too much about blending it together right now. We'll figure that out later. And then right after that, I'm going to go in with Ethereal. No, Love, which is another metallic. Right next to that, in a vertical stripe. And this is very unlike me to do this stripey sort of situation. I'm really just trying to like let the palette guide me. Now I need a lighter shade to make sure that my whole eye doesn't close up too much. So I'm going to go in with Ethereal finally, which is kind of like a blushy peachy pink, a little dusty and metallic, and use that on the whole remaining triangle like that. Interesting. And I'm going to go back to Eden and just go over that again and make sure that it's clear. And I'm just going to put a little bit of Eden back on the other side of this because it kind of makes it work. And then back to Flora over the middle one more time and sort of spreading it out and blending it a tiny bit more. So really Eden and Flora are the main colours here that are melting together. Ugh, and my eyelashes are like bunching together. So I'm kind of creating like a watercolour ombre situation. Then I'm going back to my original fluffy brush and the very first pinky shade Scallop that I used and just kind of very lightly blending that around and sort of blowing out the eye as far as I can, like that. And then it's time to do the bottom. So for the bottom of my eyes, I always like to use Milk Pencil by NYX, just because it gives a really strong base and also prevents cracking and prevents the eyeshadow from not being bright enough. I find this easier to apply under my eyes. I don't have a very pronounced under eye area, it's very flat, and so when I try and use my finger and just use like a regular eyeshadow primer or eyeshadow base, I just find it goes everywhere and can like drag down too far onto my under eye. So I'm going to do this now and I'll come back in a second. Alright, so next I'm going to continue using this Pro Shader because I like sort of how precise it is to add those detailed shades. Interestingly, well, there aren't really any very light inner corner highlight shades, so that's kind of unfortunate because that's one of my favourite things with the palette is to put the lighter shade on my brow bone and the lighter shade on the inner corner, but we're just going to work with what they have. So under the eye I'm going to use Inspire, which looks like a metallic hot pink on the outer corner. And I'm extending that out with some light little strokes so that it sort of joins with the top. Oh. Cool. Clean the brush, move to the next shade. I'm going to use Eden in a tiny little bit. To sort of make the top and bottom start to look the same, even though the top is a bit neutral and underneath is hot pink. Then I'm going to go in with Flora, which is that neon coral, and kind of match the top and bottom with a little dab of that. So it's right below where it is on the top. And then for the bottom inner corner, I don't want to use something as dark as I used on the top because I'm really just concerned that's going to close up my eyes. So I'm trying to see what the lightest shade is. Unfortunately, it is Ethereal. Ethereal is the lightest metallic shade, so I'm going to have to use that. Still pinky blushy, but it's definitely darker than what I would typically use on my inner corner. But we will solve that in a minute because I'm going to also show you the Lime Crime highlight palette that I bought. So this is going to go straight onto the inner corner. yeah, it's actually okay. It's quite similar to one of the shades that was in the original Venus palette, that sort of metallic-y, pinky, orangey, peachy. There is some fallout, I will say, although I am using a very, very tiny detail brush, and I think that fallout is usually more prominent when using that type of brush because there's not as much hair to sort of hold the shadow as you're working, it sort of just falls out of it. So that is one eye look using the palette. I haven't really kind of blended it here from top to bottom. That's kind of the point, is to make it look a little bit separate and winged out. Okay, on to the second eye. So for this next one, I'm going to go more like orangey with the crease colour. So I'm going to use Idolized, which looks like it's a sort of orangey browny colour. Straight into the crease. Gorgeous. Everything is blending so well. I'm really just very happy with this palette so far. Maybe I'll go more browny with this one because I've done all the pinks and reds, or most of them, on the other side. Just going in circular motions. Oh my god, I'm loving this shade. I could just wear this and a light shimmer on the lid as like an everyday look. I really just want to keep blending it out and going wider just because of how nice it is. And again, I do tend to blow out my eyeshadow looks quite high on the lid just because I have a hooded eyelid shape. Wow. Look how easily that blended. It really, like, I wasn't concentrating very much. I was just doing my usual movements. Nothing too stressful, and it's not patchy or anything. Wow, love that. Okay, so now I'm going to focus more on the brown shades because there's quite a few of those in the palette. So I'm going to do the same sort of thing where I'm using like a similar combination of brushes. I'm going to go in with that, what is it called again? Bullet crease, because it's like a bullet shape and it goes in the crease and it's small. Now I'm looking for the more browny shades. Most of the browns are matte though, but maybe that's, oh, there's kind of like purpley shades too. Browny purple, alright. Whew. I'm going to go with burnt gold, which looks like a sort of, I don't know how to describe this. It's just kind of like a chocolatey mid-brown. I'm going to be really careful when I do this that I don't go too high. I'm going to start nice and low, taking my brush from above. It's actually kind of like a, I don't know how to describe this colour, I've gone blank. So I'm going downwards onto the eye, and then I'm going to sort of angle my brush upwards and get it right into the crease. Oh my gosh, that's so nice. I really like this brush because you can then just kind of like use the edges of it, not the point, to like lightly, in these long motions, sweep the colour across. That's how I like to blend with it. Two very different eye looks coming together here. And then, what am I going to do next? I'm going to go under the eye next, and then I'll sort of finish the top. So under the eye I'm going back in with this detail brush, but first I'm going to do the same thing and use the white eyeliner to prime underneath. And it's creating two different eye shapes for me as well, which is really interesting. Okay, so I'm going to use the little detail brush. This is really tough, there's so many shades. I think I'm going to use Idolized again like the top and make sure it's sort of all tied together. And I'm going to just start in the center. Just going side to side. Now I'm going to switch to burnt gold and connect it to the outer corner. Then I'm just going to take the little tapered blending brush and a little bit of Idolized, tiny bit, and kind of sweep it all together. Like seriously, as an eye look, I could just stop here. But I'm gonna keep going because I'm sure you want me to use more shades. The tricky thing is there's a lot of purpley shades in this palette and I really haven't touched them. So, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go in with an even smaller detail brush. This is like the tiniest one I have. It's the Straight 204 by Makeup Forever. And it looks like this, teeny tiny. And just go straight for Botticelli, which is like a deep plummy purple. And I'm going to concentrate that right on the outer corner at the lash line in a teeny tiny amount. Teeny, teeny, tiny. And same on the top, right at the lash line, which is kind of difficult to do because I have mascara on. I'm just very lightly getting it right in at the root of the lashes. Can you see that? So it's adding like a warmth because it's sort of plummy. It's still blending really nicely with the brown. And I'm not really wanting it to look like an eyeliner. So then I'm going to go back with the smaller, actually I'm going to go back with this and tiny bit of burnt gold from above and just blend it together, back around, loving it. Now in the inner corner I'm going to try and use more shades I haven't used, but it's quite difficult because they're all very, very dark. I'm using this tiny little flat eyeshadow brush, Synthetic Hairs, and Blank Canvas, because I actually really like how white this part of the eye looks and I just don't want the other colours to interfere with that, so I'm really just filling in any area that didn't have eyeshadow on it with Blank Canvas, and I think that's actually what makes this look work. And I'm going to use Blank Canvas on the inner corner as well. Yeah. And now I've got these two very different looks. I've not used all the shades. I think there's, let me count. Okay, so there's 7 shades out of this many that I didn't use. So I'm sorry about that, but honestly I tried to use as many as I could without this looking janky. Next I'm going to just really quickly go in with the highlight palette, which I bought in Angels. And I'm going to use one of these shades to highlight my brow bone on each side. So I'm going to use the middle sort of pinky one for the first eye along the top. It's actually coming out kind of greenish, but that's awesome. I'm going to use left hand one, which I think is pinky, on the other side. Oh, it's coming out like kind of bluish purple. Just because these palettes don't come with like an inner corner pop, and I'm going to just use my ring finger on my right hand to add some shimmer to the inner corner on this eye that I feel it was missing. And that would be my one sort of, not a complaint, but my one little thing with this palette is it's still not a perfect palette for travel because it probably doesn't have enough light shades for blending. It's got maybe it's got 2 crease shades, which are the 2 that I use, Scallop and Idolized, are probably the 2 that are light enough to be crease or at least transition shades for me. And it just doesn't have those inner corner pops. But you know what? I think that if you travel with a highlight palette, or if you use highlight as inner corner highlight like I do on a regular basis anyway, that's kind of okay. I'm just going to use this bluey highlight over the top on the inner corner here. Yeah, just to add some extra sparkle that I feel like it was missing. Now I'm just going to do one more quick swipe of mascara because I think my lashes have gone a little dusty. But there you have it, these are the 2 looks that I've done with my first impressions, unplanned experimentation with the Venus XL palette. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so I've put some mascara on my top lashes again, and I've actually added mascara to my bottom lashes because I felt it needed it. And now as the final step, I'm going to be trying one of their new Velveteens, which is the shade Passion Fruit. Okay, so here is the finished look. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and don't forget to thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe, and click the little bell because honestly, I record and upload videos so little that you should probably click that bell, otherwise you'll never know. You'll never know when I'll post another video, will you? You'll just never know.